Today's episode is brought to you by Patreon. If you're interested in supporting the show, go to patreon.com/JoshuaVelas and become a $2 backer today and get early access to the new episodes. I'll be leaving a link in the description down below, but for now, on to today's episode. You're listening to the Augmented Experience podcast. I'm your host, as usual, Joshua Velas. I'm a student, musician, and a gamer at heart. Join me as I sit down every week to talk about all the latest news in the technology, business, and video game world. I hope you guys enjoy. All right, everybody, welcome back to the show. My name is Joshua Velas. I'm your host as usual, and obviously welcome back to the show. Today's episode 142 of the show, and before we get started, we're going to do a bit of house cleaning quick because, well, you guys know we always like to do this around here, so it's only fair that, we actually do talk about stuff. I do want to say thank you guys again, as I've mentioned before in Wednesday's episode, that we hit over 2,000 total downloads. We're actually close to 2,050 now. I think we're currently at like 2025, around that range, so we are pretty close. But I do want to say again, thank you guys for helping us hit over 2,000 total downloads. I really do appreciate it, especially because we haven't even hit 2 years of doing the show, which is January 11th, and the fact that we were able to pull it off before that, I'm really happy, and I greatly appreciate it, and I thank you guys for that. I really do, because obviously I wouldn't be able to do this without you guys, because you guys are constantly the ones that are downloading, sharing, watching the videos, listening to the episodes, and doing whatever you really need to do to get my attention, and I greatly appreciate it. So I do want to say thank you guys for everything. I do also want to say that obviously we have a Friday episode now, especially because I have a little bit more free time with everything going on, that we're currently in the middle of final season here at college, and I only have one final, so now I am actually able to do a Friday episode now. And especially given this week and how you guys were very interested in the topics, it was only fair that we talk about this one as well. But I do want to say, hooray, we have a Friday episode. So I hope you guys enjoyed today's episode. I do also want to say thank you to the Patreon backers for coming back and supporting the show as usual. Obviously, you guys are great. I really appreciate you. And I also want to say thank you guys for the wonderful year that we've had so far with the show. We have increased followers by about 50%, which is, I think now we're actually pushing close to 300 followers of the show. So I greatly appreciate that. We also have reached 15 countries around the world with the show. So that's actually really exciting. It actually said that my biggest increase was in the UK, which I'm like, well, hello to my UK viewers and listeners. I really appreciate that, the fact that we've had that big of a reach so far, and I only hope that it keeps growing. And granted, the year is far from over, so it's still not done yet. So I do greatly appreciate that, and you guys are awesome, and I love you guys. But now I feel like it's time that we get into the episode, because we do have a lot of stuff to talk about. And to me, it's going to be interesting because I gave Nvidia a lot of flack. And if you haven't seen that episode where I talked about the 3700 launch, which again, you can go up here if you're watching on YouTube, that you can go up and, go straight and find that video. But if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Podcasts, you can just scroll through and you'll find the RTX 3070 launch. And I, in that episode, made it very clear that Nvidia had completely failed the launch of the 3000 series. I believe they completely just sucked at what they were like. To me, the fact that they said that they weren't expecting that big of a turnout for the 3000 series launch, especially after all the marketing claims and everything, I was like, well, you shouldn't have been surprised. You were hyping these things up, and the performance and the value you were getting out of them, it didn't make much sense that you didn't have enough supply. I get it. It's also in the times of COVID where manufacturing is a little bit, weak, but you guys had plenty of time to manufacture these things because you've been working on them for a while now. And then a lot of people are like, well, this will be AMD's race to win. That AMD has promising products with big Navi, and they had all these big plans and everything, that they were hyping these things up. And when we saw the presentation, we saw the price, the performance, all of them having 16 gigabytes of VRAM, the 6800, the 6800 XT, and the 6900 XT, which I do not need to go into details about those products because there's plenty of reviews. There's plenty of other channels that have already talked about the actual performance and the specs and everything about these graphics cards. I personally always watch Hardware Unboxed. I feel like they're always at least the most trustable source in regards to things. I know, Gamers Next is also really reliable, but I personally just always go with Hardware Unboxed because I feel like they're great guys and they're obviously really objective because they did what a lot of people weren't willing to do. But then comes the launch of these graphics cards, and my God, I didn't think it was possible to be worse than the Nvidia launch, but I would say, yeah, it was far worse than the Nvidia launch by a county mile. The fact that AMD knew the competition had limited stock, they knew people were hungry for graphics cards, they knew people wanted their graphics cards, and yet they still managed to screw it up and not meet demand. And all the cards got bought up by scalpers as usual, instead of I would say AMD not being smart and working with retailers to implement strategies to not have scalpers be able to buy up all the cards. And the fact that all the cards got bought up, and what happened was you couldn't even get them at MSRP, which this is what a lot of people are upset with AMD right now, because the original MSRP, the 6800 was MSRP at $579, so $80 more than the 3070. Then you had the 6800 XT, which is at $649, which is $50 cheaper than the 3080. And then you had the big 6900 XT capped at $1,000, because it's supposed to compete with the 3090. Those were the MSRPs, or the suggested retail price, basically. The suggested retail price. However, come the launch, you weren't able to get them at that price. And all the AIB cards, instead of like the normal, maybe like 50, maybe like I would say $40 to $50 different, like price increase because of the, better cooler and stuff like that. The fact that the AIB cards, the partner cards, were basically $100+ more expensive, I honest to God do not know what the hell AMD was thinking, because the value proposition of the 6000 series were great at their price point. Now you add like an extra $150 something to it, and then they don't make sense to buy, because now the 6800 is selling for the price of the 3080. I would not buy a 6800 over a 3080. I wouldn't. And I get it, because, well, let's be honest, the partners decided to basically take the scalper's job away and just basically sell these cards at inflated prices. And I think that's not cool. And a lot of people weren't happy about that. A lot of people were like, well, this is actually kind of bullshit. And we're going to call AMD out on it because we called Nvidia out on it. What did you guys expect? Like, this is a year where you guys were hyping up big gains in graphics cards, or I would say big gains in GPU performance over the last generation, and then you get caught off guard because of the demand. You shouldn't be you have no excuse, because you knew people were going to come buy these cards in masses. You knew people were going to go out and go crazy and buy graphics cards, because yeah, right now gaming is on a rise because of the whole COVID situation. People are locked inside, so they need something to do. And right now, just being honest, getting PC parts right now is not the easiest thing to do. Like, whether you want to believe me or not, like, I recently just built my nephew a computer, and we just had to deal with what graphics cards they had in the store. The best one they had, which is an RX 5500 XT. It's an okay graphics card, but we had to deal with what we had. And even me, like, I don't really complain about my PC rig at all, because my rig plays all my games comfortably at 1080 at ultra settings. It does all my video editing like nothing, because I have a 3900. I have 32 gigabytes of RAM. I have a ton of SSDs in my computer. Like, my 2060 Super is perfectly fine and adequate for the job. However, there's some people that were sitting on maybe 1600s, maybe 1660 Ti's, maybe they were sitting on like 1070s, 1060s, 1080s, 1080 Ti's, and you have, or people that are sitting on AMD cards like the RX 4800 or 480, 580. They were sitting on those kind of graphics cards, and there's people that wanted to upgrade because they felt that the jump in performance was worth what they were charging. But then you look at the current, not only the availability issues, but then you look at what AMD pulled with the partner cards and charging $150 more for them. It just makes you think, I would say the overarching theme of this episode, that is it really worth upgrading this year? Even though, yes, a lot of new parts came out, new Intel CPUs, new AMD CPUs, new Nvidia GPUs, new AMD GPUs. You had all these new parts come out, and yet you can't buy any. Like, think about Black Friday this year. You have to think about it in this perspective. Black Friday is normally the big deal of the year when it comes to PC parts, because a lot of parts that people want go on sale, like CPUs, GPUs, SSDs, like hard drives, like power supplies, coolers. There really wasn't much this year. And that kind of sucks, to be honest, because you normally expect big sales. That's what you know. Like this year, the best deal that was going on Black Friday was the 2 terabyte Samsung 970 Evo Plus. Normally is about $500, was on sale for $250. That was the best deal for Black Friday this year. Like overall, comparing most of the deals for any PC part, that was the best deal. If I had money to blow, I would have bought one. I would have easily swapped out my Crucial P1 and just pop that sucker in and be done, because that was a fantastic deal, to be honest. That's fantastic, especially for that kind of SSD that's incredibly fast, and it's amazing because, just being honest, Samsung SSDs are great. I will always say that. I currently have I was able to get the 860 Evo, the SATA SSD, the 1 terabyte for $100 this year. That was a really good deal. For people that want a SATA drive for $100, that was a good deal. Granted, I also have my Crucial P1, the 1 terabyte, my WD Black, 500 gigs for my boot drive, and then yeah, that's actually it. I only have those 3 SSDs and then my 2 terabyte hard drive, which I probably need to buy another one in my computer because I'm running out of space, because these video files are getting crazy, because, well, now that we're shooting in 4K and stuff like that, it's getting a bit crazy. But back to the topic at hand, just to be honest. We look at the 6000 series launch, the RX 6000 series. I didn't think it was possible. A lot of people kept saying this is AMD's race to win. AMD's already crushing Intel right now because of the whole 5000 series. Granted, I would say the 3000 series were already beating Intel because of the value we're getting out of them. Like the 3900 and 3950X were phenomenal. The Threadrippers are amazing CPUs. And then you look at the new 5000 series and those things are beasts. Like the 5900 and the 5950. Whew. Those are some demons. Granted, the worst value is the 5800 XT or the 5800X, but you still get incredible performance for what you buy. Even though, yes, I still will keep saying the 5800X is the worst value out of the bunch. The 5600 is the best value out of the bunch. And then just the top of the line, the 5900 and the 5950, man, that's just a tongue twister. Jesus Christ. Those are phenomenal CPUs. Granted, I personally won't upgrade because my 3900X does everything I want it to do, and it's a very powerful CPU. It's still capable. And I feel like that's something a lot of people need to realize too, that with these GPU launches, that doesn't mean that your current GPU doesn't work anymore. It still does. It still does the job. It's just there's something that does it a little bit better. Or not a little bit, because I know I would say that's an understatement. There's something that does the job better. Granted, it's not available, but that doesn't mean that your parts are unavailable, or that doesn't mean that your parts don't do the job anymore, because they do. They're still playing your games at the resolution you always play at and at the frame rate you play at. Just because a new GPU launches means, oh, well, my card doesn't work anymore. No, it still works. Unless your card just completely just shit the bed, then yeah, that kind of makes sense to go buy a GPU. However, when we look at this whole situation, it makes me question, is it really worth upgrading this year? And to be honest, I'm just going to give my answer. I'm making this clear. This is my opinion, that I don't think it's worth upgrading this year. I think there's no real purpose because of the whole like stock shortage. You have scalpers, that it doesn't make sense. And you also have to keep in mind, these GPUs, specifically the Nvidia GPUs specifically, they're going to get outdated really quickly because they're going to make better versions of them. There's rumors going around saying that there's going to be a 3060 with 12 gigabytes of RAM because the 3060 Ti came out this week. And a lot of people are saying that there's going to be a 12 gigabyte 3060, which I still think that's bullshit, because why would you make the Ti version, which is the better version of the base card, with less VRAM than the non-Ti version that's going to have more? Like, that doesn't make any, I personally think that's not going to happen. That's just my opinion. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong, and I'll own up to it, and I'll come back and admit it, because I'm saying this live on camera, so you guys can obviously hold me accountable to it. But I personally think it's bullshit. But if it's true, then okay. But I do think there's going to be a 16 gigabyte version of the 3070. I think there's going to be a 20 gigabyte version of the 3080. So that's why I say there's no point in buying stuff now, because there's going to be better versions. Because a lot of people are upset that the 3070 and the 3080 launch with the amount of VRAM that they have. Personally, my personal opinion, I think the 3070 has the right amount of VRAM. I think 8 gigabytes is perfectly fine, because it's not supposed to be a 4K card. Can it do 4K? Yes, it can. But it's the perfect 1440p card. That's its purpose. That's what it's supposed to do. The 3080 is a 4K card. 10 gigabytes of VRAM is still enough. However, I do think they should have put more, especially when you look at AMD's offerings, that AMD had slower bandwidth VRAM. However, all the cards across the board have 16 gigabytes of VRAM. For a lot of people who are doing video editing work, I see the benefit to it. Having more VRAM is beneficial, especially for CAD designers and things like that, because VRAM is essentially important, because it's how you're going to be able to render all these high resolution CAD designs. And having more VRAM is important in that process. Granted, it's also important to have a ton of RAM in your computer to begin with, but having VRAM will help leverage that as well. Same thing goes with video editing. Video editing loves cards with more VRAM. However, a lot of people also notice that when you use Premiere, Nvidia GPUs definitely work the best because of their acceleration. You use things like DaVinci Resolve, which actually utilizes your full GPU. I would say the AMDs are going to have more value because of the more VRAM. So it's going to have more headroom and actually more oomph. However, I do agree that Nvidia, whatever they're doing with specifically the encoders inside of these things, they're definitely incredible. And granted, there are improved encoders inside the new GPUs. Like, whether you want to believe it or not, yes, there are improved encoders, and I would like to see more tests on that. However, personally, in my opinion, AMD definitely screwed this up. They definitely screwed up this launch. They screwed up the 5000 series launch. So they managed to fail twice. And Nvidia, in their part, at least failed once. I count it as once because it's just all GPUs. But if we want to go individuals, yes, Nvidia failed the 3070 launch, they failed the 3080 launch, they failed the 3090 launch, and they failed the 3060 Ti launch. And that thing just came out on what, December the 2nd? That was Wednesday. So basically when the Wednesday episode went live is when the card went on sale. So, and it was sold out like in 3 seconds. So, personally, in my opinion, I'm not surprised with how things have turned out. I'm not. That's just the cold hard reality. I'm not surprised on how this has turned out. And you shouldn't either, to be honest. You really shouldn't. And in my opinion, it'll be interesting to see what happens. I do not think this is the best time to upgrade any computer part. I think besides hard drives and stuff like that, because that's a little bit easier, maybe even RAM. But CPU and GPU upgrades, hold on to your parts, guys. Don't go crazy. Like, if anything, probably make other adjustments, like maybe upgrading your power supply, especially because when you look at the Nvidia GPUs, because of the inefficiencies of the 3000 series in terms of power draw, yes, having a beefier power supply is kind of needed. Like, I would say 750 or higher, but I would say 850 should be the sweet spot. I don't have to worry about that. I have 1200 watts, so I'm perfectly fine. So, I don't have to deal with it. But that's my recommendation on that. However, when we look at the RX 6000 series launch, I didn't think it was possible that AMD was able to mess this up that bad. I didn't think it was possible, but they somehow did. And yes, these cards are incredible performance. However, a lot of consumers have said this time and time again, that they felt that the MSRP was a lie, that AMD lied about the MSRP, even though I just watched a video from Hardware Unboxed where they had a conversation with some other representatives inside of AMD, and they said that there will be graphics cards at the time of this recording, that in 4 to 8 weeks, there will be more graphics cards in stock at MSRP. However, that doesn't excuse AMD going crazy with the profit margin gains, that they decided to go crazy and just upcharge for their graphics cards on the board partners, because now these cards aren't the MSRP. They aren't the value they don't fall in line with the value propositions that they were before. That it doesn't make sense to buy a 6800 for close to $700 to $800. Same thing goes for the 6800. It doesn't make the 6800 XT specifically. It doesn't make sense to buy that thing at $800. It's not worth that. And the same thing goes with like the 6900 and it going up and stuff like that. Personally, it's a shame that this happened, and the fact that AMD took the route that they did, because upcharging your consumers is not a good idea, especially when this is the year that a lot of people have noticed that AMD is starting to be a lot more aggressive. They're starting to charge more for their parts, like what happened with the 5000 series processors, that they were more expensive than their predecessors. However, it was a little bit more justifiable and a easier pill to swallow because of the performance gains, on how well they perform compared to last generation's parts. That they definitely perform much better, that the efficiency gains and the better core performance, core clocks and stuff like that was far better. And that's just the cold reality. I think a $50 price increase in that aspect was fair for a lot of people. Maybe a $50 to $100 price increase, people were okay with that. But with the GPUs, it just doesn't make much sense, and I don't think it was a wise idea. And we have to see if AMD holds true to their claims, that maybe at the start of next year we'll start to see more availability of cards actually at MSRP. But the same thing can be said about Nvidia. Are they going to hold up to their claims of getting more stock and keeping these things at MSRP? Which, surprisingly, if you think about it, Nvidia has actually done a better job at keeping things at MSRP than AMD, and that's saying a lot. When Nvidia is actually being a little bit more consumer friendly in this time around compared to AMD, there's something a bit off. And granted, yes, the same thing goes with, should you buy cards off scalpers? The answer is no, because they're going to get outdated quickly anyways, because that's just the cold hard reality, and stock will be, available soon. However, one thing I will say, and I know I'm going to get a lot of heat for this, so I'm actually sitting up a little bit because we're stepping into the hot seat real quick, and I'm making this clear that this is my opinion and my opinion alone, even though I feel like there's some people that might have the same opinion, that at the rate we're going, it feels like PC gaming is starting to become a little bit more inaccessible for people, because now the two main pieces you need aren't available. And a lot of people are saying that the better value proposition this time are consoles right now. That this whole stock shortage, scalpers buying up all the parts and everything, and specifically the main pieces you need, it seems like it's pushing a lot of people towards console gaming. And a lot of people are like, what the frick? That's some bullshit. That ain't never going to happen. No, but it's true, because the value proposition with the consoles is there. For $400 to $500 or even $300 for the Series S, you're getting incredible performance and you get it all in one. Yeah, I get it. It's a little bit more of a limited platform because you don't get to customize, you don't get to mod and stuff like that. However, it works. All the AAA games will go to consoles. They're always going to be optimized for consoles first anyways, because that's just how it is. Console is always the premier. It's always considered the wider spread of gaming, that console is the main place. And I know some people say, well, the competitive scene, yes, the mass market doesn't care how you feel though. That's the reality of the market, is consoles do own a more, I would say, major place in the space for gaming. That's just the reality, is consoles will always hold the roots, because that's what developers focus on, is they focus on the consoles because it's just more optimized. And granted, yes, you play on PC, so you can get more access to more details, you get access to better frame rates and things like that. But now that the consoles are doing incredible better frame rates at better resolutions, I don't see why you wouldn't buy one. It makes sense, and they're going to be developed for consoles anyway, so who knows? To be honest, I wouldn't be surprised if some people actually do that. Would it be considered blasphemy if some people switch from consoles to, or from PC to console? Some people might say that's blasphemy. However, I wouldn't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if it happens, especially because yes, the consoles, they both have RDNA 2. They both have big Navi. So who knows? The Series X, even though yes, I will do an episode and a conversation about this a little bit later, but yes, the Series X definitely has more room to grow as time goes on and as games get more optimized for the Series X compared to the PS5. That's just being objectively honest because of what goes inside these things. And you also have to keep in mind the developer kits and how long they've had them. And I feel like a lot of people just write this off as like, oh, fanboyism. No, it's objective fact. If you have something for a longer period of time and you've worked on it longer, of course it's going to run things better. That's just the truth because it's more optimized. But I feel like once developers get more comfortable working with the Series X and things like that, you'll start to see better gains that for the price point, it is worth it. Whether you like to believe it or not, it actually is worth it. And this is something that we're going to start seeing more and more over time. And that's just the reality. However, that's just my 2 cents on the matter. I do believe AMD royally screwed up this launch. I believe they definitely failed. Not gonna lie, this was a huge misstep because they messed up twice. They messed up on their CPU launch and they messed up on their GPU launch. And I feel like AMD needs to step up because yes, this is what happens once you're at the top of the mountain. Everyone's looking at you. Everyone's expecting better of you. And the reality is we all did expect better from AMD, and this was unacceptable in every sense of the word. And a lot of people admitted that the gains with the CPU were incredible. The gains with the GPU are incredible. That doesn't mean that it's all okay though. That doesn't mean that they just get a pass. No, we have to be critical and we have to be objective. We were objective with AMD, or we were objective with Nvidia. So why shouldn't we be objective with AMD and call them out when they're doing something wrong? Because that's what's happening, is they're clearly doing something wrong. And that's just the cold hard reality, is we have to be fair. We have to be objective on these matters. So that's just my 2 cents on the matter. Personally, I'm just going to say this and I'll say it again. Do I think it's worth upgrading this year? No. I do believe that you should hold on to the parts you have because they still work. They still do the job. And in the case if it breaks, then I still wouldn't buy from scalpers. Trust me, more stock is on the way. They are getting more, like not only just the 6000 series, but even the 5000 series processors from AMD. Obviously, in terms of GPUs from Nvidia, they're working on it. They're working on it, but we'll definitely see what happens. But personally, I wouldn't upgrade. I'm not upgrading my computer this year. I'm going to hold on to all my parts. The only things I'll probably touch is just swap out like SSDs, and I might swap out the liquid cooler on my computer. I might buy faster RAM for my computer, but I'm not planning on upgrading anything major in my computer, like the CPU or my GPU. I'm not upgrading. I'm going to hold on to them for a while, especially because at the rate we're going, I think it just makes more sense to hold on, to be honest. That's just my opinion. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below, or you can hit me up with my social medias in the description down below. Let me know what you guys think. How do you guys feel about the 6000 series launch? Do you agree that AMD royally fucked up? But I probably shouldn't have said that, but it's my show. I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section down below on YouTube. You know, if you like the episode on YouTube, if you're watching it on YouTube, please leave a like, dislike, whatever you want to do. Click the subscribe button if you haven't subscribed. Click the notification bell if you want to get notified when these episodes go live. And if you're listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to listen to your podcast, let me know. Like hitting me up on my social medias, or even just download the episode, share the episode with your friends. And I really appreciate you guys taking time every day to listen to these episodes. It really does mean a lot to me. But I hope you guys continue to be safe out there. I know the world is still a crazy place. Obviously, we're heading into the holiday season. If you're a college student, then please continue to study, get ready for your finals, guys, because I know how it feels. Trust me, I know how that feels because I'm a college student. Obviously, even for my high school friends, please get ready for your finals. They're important, so do well on them. I hope everyone, if you're doing finals, please, you guys are going to do great. Please continue to study. I hope everything goes well with you guys. And for everyone that's even just listening or watching, please continue to be safe out there. Please continue to take care of the people around you. Continue to be respectful of everyone around you, because that's just the best thing you can do, is be respectful and be kind and courteous towards others. But yeah, that's all I have to say. I hope you guys have a wonderful weekend. Please continue to be safe. Don't do anything dumb. And I will see you guys next week when we talk about more stuff, because we definitely have a lot of things to talk about. And it's kind of nice that I'm going into a big break for the big winter break, so I'll actually have more time to work on more episodes. So I thank you guys, and I love you guys to death. Bye, guys.
Hey there. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I really appreciate it. Thank you guys so much for taking time out of your day and listening to today's episode. If you're interested in supporting the show, whether it be financially, clicking the follow button, or just sharing the episode, it all works for me, guys. Thank you guys so much for your time, and I love you guys to death.